Good morning, everybody, and welcome into the Farzy show here at the Steven Singer Studios. This weekend sucked. You win one game for the Phillies, so that happened. They continue to be terrible on the road. The only game you win is the game Aaron Nola starts, but Aaron Nola wasn't even that good. Sixers have 2 games with the Bucks, and both those games sucked. So, NFL Draft Thursday? Hey, the Flyers won. But they're not going anywhere. But they won. I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend outside the world of sports in Philadelphia. I hope you got to get all your errands done. I hope you got to maybe get together with some friends, with some family. I just hope you had a better weekend than the Philadelphia sports teams did, because it was terrible. Let's start off with the basketball team here, because this is a team we really expect something from this year. The basketball team do something great. Ben Simmons still is sick. We're not sure when we're getting Ben Simmons back. He's not going to be back for their next game. The Sixers have looked like a totally different basketball team without Ben Simmons. And these are the games where you start to say, oh, maybe I won't just talk about Ben Simmons and his jump shot. That's why I'm willing to acknowledge that I love everything else about Ben Simmons' game other than that one little thing. And we've talked about many times, if he just develops that jump shot, that'll be great. But everything else he does seems to be pretty great as well. This is all an example of that. The fact that they haven't had their facilitator, their point guard, if you will. They haven't had their number one guy in terms of the guy that runs the offense in Ben Simmons. They haven't had him, and they haven't looked at all the same type of top-seeded basketball team that we have seen them be throughout the entire season. And while we kind of just stand here with our hands up in the air going, when are we going to get Ben back in the lineup? You watch a guy like Joel Embiid look tired. You watch a guy like Joel Embiid do all the things that we talked about last week. And what did we talk about? We said with Joel Embiid being out, and then Tobias Harris missing some time, and now Ben Simmons missing time, the Sixers, to me, look like a team that is just exhausted with having to play without their best players. Everybody else has to go to the next level when one of their starting guys, one of their best guys, in this case now their facilitator, Ben Simmons, their 3-time All-Star, is not in the lineup. Everybody else has to overexert, and this is not exactly the time of the season you want to see that happen, because playoffs are just going to be around the corner. And the Sixers, to me, look like a team, and this is what I thought of watching the first game against the Bucks this weekend. They look like a team, very simply put, that is just exhausted from not having their starters. That's not an excuse. I'm not looking at the schedule like Doc Rivers does and says, oh, well, it's a really tough schedule. What do you want us to do? I'm not doing that even a little bit. I am merely saying what it looks like to me. That's zero excuse. I have said many times Ben Simmons is one of the most freak athletes I've ever seen. I said last week you could play 100 games if he wanted to play 100 games in a regular season, and you would never see him look fatigued. But when it comes to the rest of this team, it looks like they are just sick and tired of not having Joel Embiid for 3 weeks, and then not having Tobias Harris, and now not having Ben Simmons. And this isn't the time you want to do that right before the playoffs, where you want to be playing your best basketball. Schedule starts to ease up a little bit for the Sixers, so that's a good thing as of right now. But in terms of not having Ben back for even this game against the Thunder tonight in South Philadelphia, it makes you just think about the rest of this team and how much they're going to continue to overexert before the playoffs come. They got some time. They got some time to try to right the ship again. They start to look like a team right now. They're starting to look like a team right now that is not being able to play up to those upper echelon teams like the Suns, for instance, without Ben Simmons. And now you just want, all you want at this point is guys to get healthy, Ben Simmons to get healthy, and be back before you have to really make that push to solidify yourself again as a top seed in the Eastern Conference. So I have my concerns about Ben. Doc Rivers certainly voiced that over the weekend. And we'll see when we get him back in the lineup. But until that point, you're just going to have to rely on these same guys that have been pushing themselves to the max because of, yes, the NBA schedule, but mostly because of the guys that they've been missing in their lineup. And I'm just crossing my fingers that they're a team that's actually able to keep it together as things start to wind down. Because the last thing I want to see is the Sixers, and I know you're the same way here, the last thing you want to see is the Sixers have that top seed throughout the entire regular season for the most part, with the exception of a couple of days here and there, and then all of a sudden lose it and start to go down the path. And here's the question I want to ask you. Given what you watched over the weekend with a healthy roster, I still am, by the way, with a healthy roster, do you still think the Sixers are a better team than the Milwaukee Bucks? at least, because I think in some people's minds, the Bucks dominated them so badly, even with Joel Embiid in the lineup, and now without Ben Simmons. But with Joel Embiid in the lineup, the Bucks still dominated them in that game. It was a back-to-back. Sixers were traveling and all that, blah, blah, blah. Doc Rivers even came out and said that was a game that the Sixers were just exhausted for, a scheduled loss almost, thanks to the NBA and the way they wrote up the schedule. But with the way that game was played on Thursday and then the way that game was played on Saturday, did you think that was the type of game, Friday, do you think that was the type of game that the Sixers were automatically going to lose? And did you think that's the type of game, at least on Saturday and Thursday, that the Sixers just were so blown out of the water that you think the Bucks are actually maybe the second best team in the Eastern Conference now behind the Nets? So in some people's minds, even though record-wise and standings-wise it's not like this, but just in an opinion, does it now go the Nets, Bucks, and Sixers in your opinion, or is it still the Sixers the top team, then the Nets, and then the Bucks? Because healthy roster, I still think the Sixers beat the Bucks in the playoffs if they were to meet. It's not going to happen, but if they were, and by the time the season's out, I should say, I still see the Sixers as being the top seed in the Eastern Conference. This weekend, thanks to injury, thanks to schedule, thanks to everything else, and also the fact that I don't see the Sixers playing that bad again without having their facilitator, I still see the Sixers as a better team, and I still see the Sixers as really the only competition they have for the top seed in the Eastern Conference. I still see that just being the Brooklyn Nets, who, of course, got Kevin Durant back last night, who we'll get to in our Morning Rush segment a little bit more. Came off the bench. Steve Nash went up to him before the game and said, do you want to come off the bench or do you want to start? Kevin Durant said, I think it'd be more of a challenge if I came off the bench. So he came off the bench, and he was pretty good. Get to that more in the Morning Rush segment. But those were my takeaways from Thursday and Saturday watching the Sixers. It really hasn't affected my my opinion of the Sixers as a playoff team and obviously as the top seed. So we'll continue to look at that and follow it as it continues, as the season winds down. The Phillies. Is there anything we could do to just have them never play on the road? Is there someone we could call? We have favors we could cash in maybe, because they are a terrible, historically terrible over the last 3 years, awful road team. And there are some things now that are really starting to cause concern. I know some people going into the season had their concerns about center field. Everyone had their concern about center field. Some people had their concerns about left field with Andrew McCutchen. I told you I did a little interview with Brad Lidge. Brad Lidge told me that he was actually excited to see the season that Andrew McCutchen had. So it gave me some optimism. All right, you know what? 34 years old. Maybe he got something left in the tank, leadoff man, whatever. He is playing terrible baseball. Not great in the field, and just dreadful at the plate as well. But overall, as a team, this Phillies team goes out there and gets a start. Let's look at the series from the Rockies. Here's what you had here. A fun little weekend series. You have Vince Velasquez go out there and start for you on Friday. Vince Velasquez gave you 3 innings, scoreless baseball. What? 4th inning, disaster. I feel like any time Vince Velasquez is able to pitch you 3 innings of scoreless baseball, you got to win that game. Rule. Just blanket statement. You got to win that baseball game. If Vince Velasquez is giving you 3 innings scoreless baseball, you got to win that game. The one more inning, that 4th inning, is where Vince Velasquez, of course, went, hi, I'm still here. Nice to see you. And they went with more or less a bullpen game, if you will, which I just hate so much. And it really makes you think when you factor in yesterday's performance by Chase Anderson, who got into a lot of issues, a lot of problems. It makes you think, what was this Phillies team thinking? And I know Matt Moore is on the protocol, the COVID protocol, and all that, and he could be coming back soon, and Alvarado as well. But how did they not have their young arm Spencer Howard in the starting rotation to even just begin the season? How is what? Why? What? So you look at the back end of the rotation, and it certainly gave you a lot of problems. And with their short bench, if you will, they're still deciding not to go with Spencer Howard to start you some games. And Vince Velasquez was the guy to go to in that situation. And that's kind of where the chips fell. I don't get that. I think that's just bad management, both in the front office and in the dugout. Whoever's call that would be, I assume that would be on Joe Girardi to try to, to set his starting pitcher for the game. But for whatever reason, they decide not to go with Spencer Howard coming out of spring training. He's a bullpen arm for this team. And somehow, miraculously, Vince Velasquez gets another opportunity to start for this team. Goes through the lineup once. Hey, okay, looked fine. And then, of course, the second time through is when he ended up getting beat up a little bit there against the Rockies. Now, you had a great weekend, more or less, from Rhys Hoskins, hit you a couple of home runs. You had a great weekend from Bryce Harper, who was your only offense yesterday, and the 2 runs that you were able to score. But everything else, pitching, fielding at times, Didi Gregorius had an error at shortstop. That can't happen. It ended up not really hurting the Phillies, fortunately, but still, it's not good to see your shortstop when he's coming back into the lineup for that to happen. So you get some just head scratching plays from this Phillies defense, and certainly some pitches. And Aaron Nola, in his bad inning, what was it, the fifth inning, I believe it was on Saturday, 4th or 5th inning with Aaron Nola, just got it way too much to the plate at a couple of different times in that inning, and just saw the ball fly right out of Coors Field as it tends to do. But yesterday was just another game that you just kind of threw your hands up in the air. They get the walk-off. The Rockies get the walk-off win on Friday. Phillies get the win, obviously, Saturday with Nola on the mound. And then yesterday, ball was just, again, flying out of Coors Field. And I don't know where the answer is here. And one of the things you have to have is a leadoff hitter that's going to get on base. And there's a couple of bright spots that we'll get to in a second. But one of the dark spots surrounding this team has been left field. And finally, Joe Girardi was asked about it, about making a change in left field. And what he more or less says is that there's nobody else to go to. Guys are going to have their struggles. You have to see if they can find their way out of it. But as of right now, Andrew McCutchen is the guy to go to in left field. Here's Joe Girardi after the game yesterday talking about his leadoff man and his left fielder.
McCutchen has to get going. There's a lot of really good hitters in this league that have gotten off the slow starts. I mean, there is. I mean, look around the league. You'll see a lot of guys hitting around 200. And I think the one thing that you have to do sometimes is be a little bit patient. And then if you see improvement in at-bats, obviously you know it's going to come. I mean, you can move the lineup around all the time. And a lot of times you don't know where the big at-bats are going to come. So, to me, you just try to be steady. You look at the at-bats, and if the at-bats are not quality, that's when I think you make moves.
So the production isn't so much what's bothering Joe Girardi. It's the bad at-bats. Well, the bad at-bats right now are leading to production. And he says earlier that he saw McCutchen a couple of games there have some good ABs, hit the ball hard, but now he's waiting for that production to follow. I didn't really see a lot of the good at-bats throughout this entire series. And now if you just go by the numbers, your leadoff hitter is hitting 154. That's what your leadoff hitter is batting right now, 154. And his on-base percentage, I want to make sure I get this right, is 300. That's your leadoff hitter. Now, I bring up the numbers for this reason. Again, your leadoff hitter. Since he has been here, he has had an on-base percentage at his highest in 2019 before he went out with the injury, and that was at 378. Last year, it went down to 324. Now it's down to 300. And this is, by the way, a guy that we all know, MVP status in the league, and he had that years ago. And we all know he's far from that. But when the Phillies acquired him 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, when the Phillies acquired him, you were hoping he could at least be the guy that just, hey, you don't have to worry about hitting home runs. You don't have to worry about hitting doubles and total bases and all that. We just want you to get on base. And when he was with the Yankees, he was getting on base, to use Joe Girardi's term with the Yankees, at his on-base percentage of 420 a clip. All right? At a pretty good clip. He was getting on base at a good clip. Now that's not there. So what's the next move? And the next move might be a little wild, considering the guy's only been in baseball now, 7 games, I believe? Nick Maton. Let's party, brother. Love what I'm seeing from you. Absolutely love what I'm seeing from Maton. Absolutely love it. Maybe he's the guy you move to the starting or the number one spot. Maybe Rhys Hoskins move up in that. I don't want to move Rhys because he's been hot. I don't want to move him anywhere. But you got to get somebody at the top of that order that is willing to get on base, able to get on base at a regular clip. And right now, that's not Andrew McCutchen. Andrew McCutchen right now looks to be a guy that is a pinch hitter. And that's a hell of a lot of money for a pinch hitter. But I don't know what else you're going to get from a 34-year-old who's been through some injuries over the last couple of years. A 34-year-old who has a lot of miles on that body. He looks to me to be the guy that, at this point, can just come off the bench. I don't see him finding his way out to even a 250, 260 batting average and a 340 on base percentage. Even that. I see him as a guy that simply needs to come off the bench at this point in his career, and the Phillies need to find something. You went into the season now with two huge holes in your outfield. Left field, also in your starting lineup with the leadoff hitter, obviously, and then at center field. Phillies got a lot of work to do when it comes to their defensive capabilities and also what they're going to do with this lineup. So we'll, as I like to say, we'll continue to follow it and see if these stories develop. Coming up in a minute, we're going to have some great football guests for you all week long with the NFL draft kicking off on Thursday in Cleveland. And if you didn't see this, it's not just going to be Roger Goodell in his basement sitting by the fire in the leather chair and look like he's about to read you some Christmas and holiday stories. No. It's going to be across the city of Cleveland, Ohio. It's going to be partly at First Energy Stadium, home of the Browns. Some of it's going to be at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, so that's pretty cool. So it's going to be an interesting show to watch at least, and not just seeing where the prospects end up landing, but also just how they're going to cover it as a NFL, as TV networks, and all that. So I'm looking forward to it. But today, Mike Golic will join the show. It just came out. Now, we interviewed Mike on Friday, shortly after we wrapped up the show Friday. So the news had not yet broke that he was going to be actually making a selection, I believe in the second round for the Philadelphia Eagles. So, announcing the selection for the Philadelphia Eagles in the second round. But we talked to Mike about all things draft. We talked to Mike about all things that he's actually engaged in right now. He's got a great charity event that he'll tell you all about, so that's a great thing. But he also talked about his time in Philadelphia while he was here with the Eagles. I didn't realize it. I knew he was here with the Eagles for about 5+, 6+ seasons, but I didn't realize that Philadelphia was his longest tenured spot of all the places he was in his career. I think he was with Houston, and then the other teams escaping me. 3 teams I think he played for in his NFL career, but his longest tenure was here in Philadelphia. So we'll talk to Mike Golic about that. Mike Golic Sr., obviously. And, just a great guest, a lot of fun, so you won't want to miss that interview coming up in just a minute. But that was a good time and a great conversation to have with Mike Golic. Last thing on the world of sports as far as Philadelphia goes here. I know the Flyers are out of it. I was explaining to Riley Cote last week that I still have like a boyish cheer when it comes to the Flyers. And even though they're out of it, even though I'm not really saying this is going to be some amazing run, right? But it was pretty cool, though, to watch in the final minute and 25 seconds. Claude Giroux scored 2 goals, 22 seconds apart to tie the game, force overtime, no score. They go into a shootout, which I don't know if it was their longest shootout of the season, but it certainly felt like it. And they went in the shootout. They beat the Devils. What's not so great is that they started out, again, flat. And the Devils, by the way, hadn't had a lead in 9 games. 9 games they haven't had a lead. And the Flyers certainly gave them one and came out flat in that game. But then they were able to rally late thanks to a couple of goals from their captain, and then they were able to win in the shootout. But it's always good to see the Flyers win. I'm never against that. So good for the Flyers on getting the victory there. And Claude Giroux, of course, 850 points for the Flyers. And now I believe he's now in 3rd, maybe, in all-time Flyers scoring. So not too bad for the Flyers captain. But anyway, nonetheless, good to see a Flyers win yesterday. Never going to be rooting against that. Before we get to Mike Golic, I do want to tell you here at the Steven Singer Studios, Mother's Day almost here, folks. Just about 2 weeks away. Not even, a little bit more than 2 weeks away. Mother's Day almost here, and Steven's got your back with the brand new rose color, Sunshine Yellow. This new Sunshine Rose is a brilliant shade of yellow that dazzles and sparkles. It is beautiful. His famous gold dip roses are real roses, dipped and trimmed in 24-karat gold that last a lifetime. Steven has always been in the love business, loves to say that he's in the love business. And this past year, we've seen how important love really is. In addition to brightening your loved one's day, Steven wants to put a little sunshine in everyone's day. So He's continuing to use a portion of each row sold to support local restaurants by catering meals for our incredible nurses, doctors, first responders, just basically our healthcare heroes and our hospital heroes as well. Don't wait any longer. Order now with free shipping, and you can receive it in time for Mother's Day. It's a win-win-win. You'll get the sunshine that lasts a lifetime for someone you love. You'll be supporting local restaurants by thanking our essential workers, and you'll feel good about doing it. You can't go wrong. They come in with a lifetime guarantee, free personalized gift message, fast and free shipping, and just in time for Mother's Day. So go now to IHateStevenSinger.com. The other corner of 8th and Walnut, every day, the perfect price at Steven Singer Jewelers. All right, we got our social media check-in coming up in just a minute. We have our morning rush coming up in a minute, and we got our big bets segment. Won another one over the weekend. I'll tell you all about it. But without further ado, this was a blast to be able to talk to this man, Mike Golic, Sr., former Philadelphia Eagle. He'll be making the announcement of a pick for the Eagles in the upcoming draft. We talk all things football in Philadelphia with Mike Golic right here on the Zatos Investments guest line. Joining us now on the Zatos Investments guest line, it is my great honor here on the Farzy Show to talk to former Philadelphia Eagle, 5+ years here in Philadelphia, broadcasting legend, and a man that wants to just help the community right now, the great Mike Golic, Sr. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I think the biggest thing that's been going on is that people are now remembering me. Now I'm going to get back into business and stuff. I'm on a bit of a break. Are remembering me for more than broadcasting, and so many people don't even remember or realize that I actually played football at one point in my life. I'm that old, I guess.
Well, believe me, we'll cover that because obviously we're in Philly and we want to talk about your career here in Philadelphia and playing at the Vet and all your teammates and your coaches and all that. But first things first, you are doing something great to help out the community with Operation Barbecue. And I hear Operation Barbecue and I think to myself, I want to be a part of that. Anything I can do to help promote that, I'm in. So you're actually going to be helping out in Kansas City by playing some golf, right? You can purchase raffle tickets to win an opportunity to golf with Mike Golic himself in Kansas City, May 24th of this year, obviously, for Operation Barbecue. First, Mike, how can we get more involved, and what exactly is Operation Barbecue?
Well, Operation Barbecue Relief is what they do is when there is a natural disaster around the country, like let's just go back not long ago into Texas. They had the ice storm and a lot of people lost power and such. What they do is they travel en masse. They have 18-wheelers that are offices, and they bring huge, grills down there. And what they do is they make incredible barbecue food and feed people who need it. Displaced families, first responders, anybody in need. If people are trapped in their homes, they'll take food to them. So that's what they do. They've done it to the tune of over 9 million meals in their 10 years of existence, over 5 million meals last year alone. They can get up to 30,000 meals a day out there to people. So that's what they do. So that was my thought. They help people, number one, and it's freaking barbecue. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with a great barbecue meal. So I'm trying to do as much as I can to help them for when they have to go on deployment. Obviously, it's a lot of moving parts. So, they need the donation. So the first golf outing is this year, as you mentioned, outside of Kansas City at a Nicholas Golf Club. It's May 24th. And what we're doing to kind of help raise a little bit of money is we're doing $10 raffle. That's just $10. And if your name gets picked, you and 2 friends are going to be part of my foursome. We'll be the foursome for this golf tournament. And as I said, when I go into these golf tournaments, I love to eat. There's going to be great barbecue food. I love to drink. There's going to be drink there. And my scoring pencil always has an eraser. So you're guaranteed good eats, good drinks, and you're pretty much guaranteed a great score. And all the money, again, goes to Operation Barbecue Relief for all their efforts that they're raising money for. The raffle ends April 26th at noon Eastern time. So a few more days for that. Again, just $10. You can buy as many raffle tickets as you want. And it's for a great cause. And out of it, you get to eat, drink, and maybe win a tournament if my eraser works well enough.
Awesome. What's your drink of choice? I know you love barbecue. What's your drink of choice?
I'm a beer guy. Listen, I'll basically drink anything. That probably says a lot about me, but I am a big time beer guy. I like a beer in one hand, a cigar in the other hand, food sitting on the ground, and then maybe a golf club somewhere in there somehow, some way.
Very, very nice. This is a great cause, so people definitely need to check it out. This is a fantastic.
Yeah, real quick at obr.org is where you can check everything out.
obr.org. Sounds great. Now, is this locally sourced barbecue? Because you're in Kansas City. It's a high bar for barbecue.
Well, I will say this because I've been asked before, because I do love food. When I was playing, people always ask me what was the best smelling stadium, and I've always said it was Kansas City. And actually, when we'd leave Kansas City, before we get back on the bus to go to the airport, we'd stop by the Chiefs players area, and we'd always take some barbecue food with us. So, yeah, but they also, Operation Barbecue Relief, they have a headquarters in Kansas City, in Tampa Bay as well. So they want to be in different parts of the country, so it's easily accessible depending on where they have to go.
That you just brought back a memory. I worked a lot of years behind the scenes on Sunday Night Football, and whenever we were at Arrowhead, walking back out to the cars after the game, there'd be all the players just lining the tunnel, waiting for their little entree of barbecue to get on the bus and to get out of town. Wow, what a smell that was.
Good stuff. Makes my mouth water right now.
I'm thinking of it right now. I'm like, I have to get some barbecue tonight. So, Mike, this is a great cause, obviously, that you're working with here. It's fantastic. I would like to go back, again, being that we're a Philly-based show, and just talk about your time here in Philadelphia. When you think back to your playing days here in Philly, I'm always curious what an athlete goes immediately to. Like when I say you're 5+ years in Philly, what jumps to mind immediately?
Well, I think, this was before free agency. We all hit free agency together in '93, my last year in Philly, when there were 11 of us that were free agents, including the late, great Reggie White, and we all ended up going somewhere else. Norman Brayman didn't want to pay and keep anybody. But for those years before that, there was no free agencies. So the thing that I remembered most was the friendships that I had. If you can leave, professional sports and have some true friends, that's something. Normally you're just teammates, acquaintances, and then there's a lot more movement today than there's been. So we had a group core of guys. I was there right around 6 years. So, guys that were all together, especially on the defensive side with Reggie and Jerome. I mean, God rest their souls, and obviously Wes Hopkins and Andre Waters. But, Seth Joyner and Eric Allen, who I worked with for a while at ESPN, Byron Evans. Mike Pitts, all these guys that I knew, we weren't just teammates, we were friends. And that's what really stuck with me. When I got released by the Oilers, there were a few teams that called. I got released on a Tuesday, and I went to Philly. Was my first visit on a Thursday, and I knew Buddy was a defensive guy, and I knew the stars they had there, and I said, man, I want to be part of this. And so I canceled the other trips. I said, I'm signing here, and I loved it. I mean, you want to talk about some A personalities in a locker room. I mean, people always say you got to write a book. I said, hell no, I ain't writing no book. You got to put out some salacious details for a book. And I'm not doing any of that. I'm just going to hold those memories and great times that I had in Philly. I loved it. I love the fans. They're hard. They can be hard on you, but you know what? They love you and they're loyal to you. So I loved, my wife and I, we loved our time there.
I always like to say to outsiders, that people not from Philly, I always say, Philly is the friend that tells you look fat in those pants. Like, we don't sugarcoat it. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't ask how you look and not want the truth back.
You mentioned that, and it's funny because the stadium itself was a character. I mean, obviously all the characters on the team, but then the stadium, the Vet, had a life of its own.
Yeah, it was garbage. Yeah, it's exactly right. It had a life of its own. I mean, between the 700 level and the urine bombs coming down in the balloons to that turf that we played on, which was carpet over concrete, save for where the pitcher mound was, it was metal. I always tell the story. Every visiting team filed a grievance with the NFLPA when they played at the Vet because the turf was so bad. And I mean, my God, it ended Wendell Davis's career from the Bears. Dude went up for a pass at the Vet, came down, just landed on the turf, blew both his patella tendons out. His kneecaps were up into his thigh. I mean, just from landing on the turf. And I mean, it basically ended his career. It was horrible stuff. So while there was something to it when you go to work there every day, you got no windows, you're down underneath working out and having your meetings. The rats are as big as the cats and they battle underneath there. And they got, the jail cell for the unruly, patrons during the game. There was something great about that, but there was also something great about pushing the plunger on that sucker and blowing it up.
So true. Now, you mentioned Reggie White. You mentioned, obviously, Coach Buddy Ryan and all that. When you look back on that, like, one of the things that always jumps out to me when talking to former athletes that played against Reggie White is just like doing anything at will. Like there was a moment that a switch would flip and he would just decide to dominate a game, for instance. I mean, have you ever played with anyone like that just had that type of ability to just dominate at any given moment?
Never. And anywhere on the line, whether it be against a tackle, a guard, a center, it didn't matter. I've never seen a man that big, 6'6", 315. I watched him run a 4.6 40. I watched him be the strong, he benched, he squatted, and he cleaned. Those were basically his lifts. And he was, a lot of people say they're strong in the weight room and it doesn't show on the field because, or they're not strong in the weight room, but they have leverage. Reggie was fast. Reggie was quick. Reggie was strong in the weight room, and Reggie had great leverage. He had it all. I mean, it was stunning. But Jerome, all that said about Reggie, Jerome had probably the quickest first step I've ever seen out of a player who I played with or against. Clyde Simmons probably had the best hand play at 6'6". He was a guy that used his hands so unbelievably well. Watching him play, and Seth Joyner was not only probably the nastiest guy I played with, but the smartest. That dude studied more film and knew everybody's job, and you damn well better know your job as well. He'll let you know about it. So the guys that I played with were amazing, but the physical attributes that Reggie had were second to none that I've ever seen.
When you look at this Eagles team now, the modern-day Eagles with Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman running things, now Nick Sirianni in here, what type of state do you think the Eagles are in right now? Do you think they're in a rebuilding type of mode? Where do you see the Eagles right now?
Well, what's tough is I think there's some rebuilding. They have some good pieces in place, but too many injuries. I mean, you had one wide receiver between wide receivers and tight end play actually 16 games. Your old line was battered as well. You're changing quarterbacks now. So where do you go? Do you go another first-round wide receiver to go with your first-round receiver last year? I think had 31 catches and played 11 games or whatever it was. Do you try and help Jalen Hurts? Do you help the defensive side of the ball? I think they're a little bit mode of rebuilding and also just trying to be healthy. Now, San Francisco was the MASH unit last year. There's always a big-time MASH unit, but the Eagles weren't far behind. They had a lot of injuries, and that happens, and that's something you cannot predict or prepare for. You think this guy is going to do that. You got two really good tight ends. Well, they both play, 11 games or less. So if they're not on the field, that doesn't mean it doesn't do you a damn bit of good. So health comes into play, but they need more pieces, and they're going to have to build more around Jalen Hurts. They're going to have to get a better running game. They're going to have to get more weapons for him to give him a fair shot, and certainly the defensive side of the ball as well. So I do think they're in a bit of rebuilding mode, but they need somehow, some way to stay healthy. And that's just a factor you can't really predict.
What has been your impression of Nick Sirianni so far? I mean, obviously he hasn't coached a game yet, but when the Eagles made that hire, what went through your head?
So here's the thing I say about all new head coaches. We have no friggin' idea. None. And this was one of the years where we really saw no retreads, right? The only real name we saw was Urban Meyer, and he's never head coach in the NFL. So we know him as a head coach at Ohio State. Now, that's like a pro team anyway, the way they go about the business. But he's still dealing with guys who are going to make more money than him and who are professionals, and it's a different world. All the other guys were position coaches or coordinators, all have really good reputations. So I don't try and sit there and say, oh, I think this about that. I have no idea. I have no clue. You got Dan Campbell going in talking about biting kneecaps. You got other guys talking about analytics. You have no idea what's their preference side of the ball. If they're an offensive coach, then you look at what kind of defensive hire they make and vice versa. So you look at the people they bring in around them. But I'm not going to be one of those that sit here and say, oh, I love that he does this or I love that he said that. I have no friggin' idea, because there's a monster difference in being a coordinator and taking over one side of the ball when all of a sudden you're in the big boy chair and every single decision has to go through you.
You just reminded me, Dan Campbell and the biting kneecaps. He's biting kneecaps. Nick Sirianni's playing rock, paper, scissors.
How about that? And you know what? Now given back in my day of playing, we were always, and Buddy Ryan, it was biting kneecaps. I wouldn't mind a little rock, paper, scissors. There can be a nice blend of the old and the new. We don't have to only be one or only be the other.
Okay, fair enough. Last thing about this modern-day Eagles team before we get back to barbecue, my man. when have you seen the reports, heard the reports about the turmoil in the Eagles front office and whether or not they're working together as one cohesive unit? And if so, what do you make of that? The Eagles seem to be in turmoil behind the scenes.
It's always interesting when an old management regime stays for a new team, or especially how he's been through a couple. So you always wonder how long that lasts, or when the owner of any team says we need a fresh start everywhere. So that, it's something that you would wish that if the management is going to bring in a new coaching staff, that they would be on the friggin' same page, right? And now all of a sudden, how it ended last year with Doug Peterson, with that wild quarterback decision that he made at the end of the year, and then obviously it seemed to be butting heads on the future of what they each wanted for Carson Wentz. The biggest thing I think that hurts is lack of communication. You got to have the foundation of a pecking order of how you're going to do things, so you don't, and it's not always going to work that way. It's not a perfect world of how you're going to do things, but it can be a little surprising when a management group makes it through a couple of cycles of coaches. You wonder, what the lasting time is going to be of that. I mean, let's just be honest. This will be the last time, right? I mean, how this coaching staff goes with management, if this doesn't work in a few years and they're going to make a change, it's going to be a sweeping change. But you've reset again. So you've reset a whole new group of communicators, hopefully working well together. And you hope it works this time. I mean, let's give everybody a fair shot and see where they can go. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. Again, it's the team I hold dear to my heart. For the draft, the second day of draft, I get to announce one of the picks. So that's going to be pretty cool. In my hometown of Cleveland, I get to go on stage, and I think either the second or third round pick for the Eagles. I'm going to get to call it this year. So I'm looking forward to that. It was the team I played for the most. I played with 3 teams. I love the Eagles. I want them to do well.
Well, maybe you could do us a favor here in Philadelphia. Maybe write down on another card the guy you want at that spot.
Yeah,
because that would make us all very happy. Mike Golic, can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Again, Operation Barbecue. It's a great thing. I'll put it up here on the screen one more time so that people can check it out. It's a fantastic cause that you're helping out with. And again, you can also go to go.rallyup.com. People can check that out as well for Operation Barbecue. It's a great thing that you're doing. $10 raffle tickets for people to get involved. Mike, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Enjoyed it. Thanks.
The great Mike Golic joining us here on the Zatos Investments guest line. What a guy. What an awesome guy to talk to. Mike Golic joining us there, and really enjoyed that. I had never talked to him before. I've been in the same room with him a couple of times, just didn't have the opportunity to engage, unfortunately. But I thought a lot of fun to talk to that man. So hope you enjoyed that interview. Obviously, it'll be up on our YouTube page, obviously, as soon as the show's over. Hope you're enjoying it right now. And we'll be checking in with you guys on the YouTube comment section in just a second. Before we go any further, and there's a lot to get to about that NFL draft here. Most of the second half of the show is going to be about that NFL draft, especially with 2 reports coming out about how the Eagles are an aggressive football team. Go figure. We'll talk about that in just a second. But right now, I do want to tell you about DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings Sportsbook has incredible stuff going on right now with the NFL draft. Most exciting day of the season for some, and for others, it's a chance to build on last year's success. Whether your team has the first pick or the last pick, DraftKings is bringing the excitement to you. DraftKings, the leader in daily fantasy sports, is adding to the thrill by offering a free-to-enter draft pool. That's right, a free-to-enter draft pool this Thursday with $50,000 up for grabs. DraftKings free-to-play pool are easy to play in. Just download the DraftKings app, go to pools, and choose from the wide variety of free contests for an opportunity to win cash. All that, and it's all in the DraftKings app. All you have to do is answer a handful of questions around what you think is going to happen on draft night and track your results throughout the evening. DraftKings will be hosting a draft night specific pool with questions ranging from who will be picked before whom, all the way if you think a team will trade a pick, all the way to whether or not you think a team will trade a pick in the first round. DraftKings is safe, secure, reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy to get in the free draft pool with $50,000 in prizes up for grabs. That's promo code Farzy to get a free shot at $50,000 in total prizes only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Eligibility and restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. So make sure you take advantage of all that. I also want to tell you to check out our good friends over at Philadelphia Sports Nation, a local Philadelphia sports site covering your favorite teams across blogs and social media. PHLSportsNation.com. Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience. Speaking of some great things going around the city of Philadelphia, how about Zatos Investments, an up-and-coming luxury real estate and development company in the Philadelphia area? They design and develop top-of-the-line custom homes all around the city, ranging from small single-family rehabs to ground-up new construction townhomes and condo buildings. Remember the name, Zatos Investments. Zatos works closely with their private investor base to provide them with substantial returns on their investment, ranging from 20 to 40%. They are crushing the Philadelphia real estate game right now. To see some of their properties and learn how you too could invest with Zatos, reach out to info@zatosinvestments.com or simply visit zatosinvestments.com. Had a slew of fun challenges on the FanUp app over the weekend. If you don't have the FanUp app, download it now in the App Store. Use promo code FanUp. Get 2,000 bonus points right out of the gate, and you could get in line on their leaderboard. You could win great brand prizes, a pair of Jordans. They gave away a Peloton bike. They gave away a mirror, to work out in front of the mirror and all that stuff with your own personal trainer. It's great. The FanUp app is a great app to have a lot of fun with fantasy sports, with making gentlemen's bets, put them in writing, so to speak, to challenge your friends. So get the FanUp app right now. The days of playing fantasy sports alone are over. Enter FanUp Super Fun and daily, weekly contests, answer fun questions, and rise on that leaderboard. FanUp, you could be the real MVP and win some great brand prizes, win points, win cash. Any day, week, or season, you could be the real MVP with FanUp. Download the FanUp app in the App Store. Use promo code FanUp and get 2,000 bonus points. That's FanUp. May the best fan win. Let me get some of these great comments here. Brought to you by the great people of Steak and Maine. They sponsor our social media check-in every day, so I want to make sure I see some of these comments from you fine people here on the comment board on YouTube. Mac's checking in, saying good morning. Good morning, Mac, and good morning to all you fine people. Sean's checking in. Ugly weekend. You're damn right it was an ugly weekend. Luigi's checking in. Sixers ain't going to do it this year. Luigi, I agree with you, but I'd like to do it. I'd like for them to at least get close. Here's the thing. Here's the line for the Sixers season for me. Get to the Eastern Conference. If this Sixers team does not get to the Eastern Conference Finals, it is an abysmal failure. Abysmal failure. They have their best roster that they've had in years. Best roster that they've had in years. They have their best coach that they've had in years. And you mean to tell me, and by the way, number one seed throughout the vast majority, overwhelming majority of the regular season? Yeah, you better at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Joel, you have an MVP candidate. You have the best player in the NBA this year. Here's what I know. There has been no better player in the NBA throughout this season than Joel Embiid. He's probably, unfortunately, not going to win the MVP award. It comes down to too many games missed, and now he just missed another one. Yeah, he's not winning. You have the best player in the NBA for you right now in Joel Embiid, your best coach in years, your best roster in years, number one seed throughout the vast majority of the season. If they don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, it's a bust. This season's a bust. There's going to be no oh, well, at least they did it. No. If they don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm pissed off, and you should be too. I don't like to tell people how to feel, but you should be pissed off if the Sixers don't make the Eastern Conference Finals. But as far as they ain't going to do it this year in terms of winning the championship, I don't expect them to win the championship. I do expect them to at least make it out of the second round of the playoffs for the first time since Allen Iverson was running this team. What else do we have? Sorry, who was that? Luigi? And Miss Scusi. I hope I didn't go off on too much of a tangent there. I nailed the KD impression. Thanks, man. It's kind of just being a malcontent. That's pretty much my malcontent impression. That's how I view Kevin Durant. Even though if I was so just stick with me here. If I was a superstar NBA athlete as phenomenally talented as Kevin Durant, I think I would be a lot like Kevin Durant, minus the burner accounts. I wouldn't give a damn. But like if you go on his actual account, was it KD whatever. KD, malcontent, I don't know. If you go on there on Twitter, it says, like, I play ball and I'm me and I chill. Like, I think that's pretty much what I would do. At least I like to think so. Anyway, Matt Moore stinks. Henry saying that. You are correct. I do not disagree. Jacob saying the rotation sucks. I agree with you. These are all statements of facts. I have no counter argument because there is none. How long will it take to get tired of Cool Joe's approach? JD says. I think it's going to take a couple more at-bats of Andrew McCutchen, and I think it'll take a couple of more turns around the rotation of not having Spencer Howard pitch in this rotation. That's what it'll take. And by the way, I don't think that's far off. I think that's right around the corner. What else do we have? McCutchen's been his favorite player. Vince checking in. I don't think so anymore. Ian saying he loves Claude Giroux. I love him too, especially if he's scoring goals like that. My 2-month-old daughter would be better than Howie, in my opinion. James is saying that. I'm not saying you're off. I'm not saying you're off. I don't want to how you do it. I'm trying to. All right, Matt's checking in. Matt was, I think, joined the show last week for the first time. So, Matt, good to have you back again. Matt, if you're trying to incentivize us, telling us to work out in front of a mirror, you should work out in front of a mirror. I don't. I try to get as little mirror time as possible, and I just started working out again like a month ago. And when I say working out, I started bench pressing again. That's it. I think, what was the phrase back when curls for the girls? Yeah, that's about it. I just started bench pressing again. And here's the reason. Now, this is the greatest reason in the world to work out, I feel. I started bench pressing again because I'm too lazy to actually like fully go on the ground and just start doing push-ups. I find that takes so much energy. It's easier to just lay down and do bench press. It's harder for me to try to actually get down and do push-ups. I used to be able to do 50. I'm going to say I used to be able to do and then give you the exact number. Back in the day, I was able to do 52 push-ups in a minute. And now it's just pathetic. I don't even want to go down there and do that. So now what I do is I just lay on the bench and do the bench press. I just do the bench press because I don't have to do that. So the last thing I'm looking at is a mirror. But yeah, for the people that need the personal trainer mirror thing that FanUp was giving away. Oh, yeah. Get involved. What else do we have here? Oh, April. What's happening? We did find out. We might remember from last week's show. I thought I might have went to school with April. We probably did have some classes together. She graduated, I'll just say this, around the same time I did, but not the same semester, I guess it would be. So, April, good to see you again. Flyers won last night. There isn't any pressure. Okay, Flyers have no pressure, so there's no more bad games for them. Yeah, let's hope that's the case. But anytime the Flyers win, yeah, I'm willing to at least bask in it for just a second. Phil's checking in. He really enjoyed the Mike Golic interview. Thank you. That's all Golic. It's just me teeing him up. He hits him out of the park. Just simple as that. Thanks to everybody that checked in there on our social media check-in brought to you by the great people of Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. Make sure you check it out. Fine dining in the heart of Northeast Maryland. Let's roll on into our morning rush. A lot of football to get to, so let's move it right along. Morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars and skymotorcars.com. So many reports. Okay. There's been 2 reports that have come out recently in the last couple of days over the weekend that have perked up Eagles fans' eyes just a little bit. What was that? And they involve Zach Ertz, Jeremy Fowler, ESPN, saying that the Eagles are dangling Zach Ertz out there in a potential opportunity to move up. Adam Kaplan, inside the Birds, came out recently and said that he'd be shocked if Zach Ertz would be on the Eagles team after the draft. We have speculated, and partly when Adam was on the show, we speculated further. Well, Adam reported, I speculated, that Zach Ertz will very likely be traded on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. So this is probably the last week of Zach Ertz being a Philadelphia Eagle. If I'm the Eagles, I would absolutely use him as leverage to try to move up in the draft, whether that be to get out of the 4th round and move up into the 3rd round, or maybe help you move from the 3rd round into the 2nd round, and maybe even if you have some luck, second into the 1st round, back end of the 1st round, like 30th overall pick instead of the 37th, for instance. But Jeremy Fowler is not putting anything past the Eagles because, according to Jason LaCanfora, the Eagles are up to something in this NFL draft. I'm not putting anything past Howie. And it's funny, when I used to interview in my old gig, when I would interview Adam Schefter every week, if we talked about The Eagles wheeling and dealing. Probably the thing Shefty said the most was you can't rule the Eagles out ever in any trade. They're always going to do their due diligence. They're always going to kick the tires. They're always going to see what type of move they can pull off if there's a trade available. So wouldn't you know it? Last night, I'm watching the old Sports Center, and I'm doing some things. I got it on, and Shefty's got a report out there. He's got a little feature piece on Sports Center where they talked about the Ravens getting Lamar Jackson. And as part of that, the Ravens had to get on the phone with the Eagles because, and this is the way the GM put it, DaCosta, I think is his name in Baltimore, Howie's always up for a trade. Howie's always willing to listen to a deal. So they wanted to make sure that they had Howie on the phone to try to move up in the draft to take Lamar Jackson. That just perked my ears up. I'm sorry, what was that? Howie's always up for a deal. That was the GM speaking. It wasn't Shefty speaking. So think about that for a second. If it just happens to be around the same time the draft is right now, and that's obviously why they ran the thing last night on ESPN. But think about this. Shefty always says it. Now the report's out from Jeremy Fowler. Now the report's also out from Jason La Canfora that the Eagles could be moving up in the draft to try to take Kyle Pitts. Yay. Or even take a quarterback at possibly number 4 overall. And the Atlanta Falcons, as fate would have it, would also be willing to be trade partners if they decide to move back in the draft. We're going to talk to Hugh Douglas tomorrow, of course, because it's the Find Hughes Day, about what the latest going on in Atlanta right now, because that 4th overall pick seems to be the pick that's most up for grabs in that top 5. So we will dissect that further tomorrow. But as of right now, I got to tell you, I love the idea of the Eagles being in the top 5. I love the idea of the Eagles getting the 4th overall pick. What I find interesting, though, if you're going from 12 to 9, as we've talked about before, you're not going to be using one of those future first-round picks that you acquired and moving back. If you're moving back into the top 4, for instance, you're damn right you're going to be using one of those first-round picks. So, to me, it makes me bang my head against the wall. But if the Eagles are going to correct a mistake that I didn't want them to make in the first place and get back into the top 6, as I should say that, in the top 6, and possibly get a top 4 pick, okay, Howie, you better get the right guy here. Because after all that, it really is, for the people that saw it, just like that movie Draft Day, where you're basically hitting reset button on a trade. So as far as this draft goes, if they can move on from Zach Ertz and get something in return that is worth moving into the first round again, even albeit again the 30th overall pick, maybe with Buffalo, if you're able to do that with Zach Ertz, good on you. If you're able to get, and these are the names I've been rolling out for it, if you're able to get, I still like Devontae Smith. I know everything negative has come about Devontae Smith. You're able to stay at 12 or even move up to 9, get Jalen Waddle, Patrick Surtain. I'm not an Alabama fan, as it's about to sound, but if you can get Patrick Surtain, if you can get Devontae Smith, you can get Jalen Waddle around that 12th pick, depending on if they move up a couple of picks, whatever it might be. I'm a happy camper with at least getting somebody there that you know is going to be a starter on your offense from Jump Street. Great. But I'm even more ecstatic if you do get aggressive again and you do decide to get up and take a quarterback. Oh, my God, what if they get Zach Wilson? Oh, my God, what if they take Mac Jones? Oh, my God, what if they get another quarterback in this draft? And then the Quarterback Factory, but T-shirts available at FarzyShow.com. Quarterback Factory is back in conversation. Not that it really ever left, considering it's only a year ago. But imagine they actually do that. The rant I went on last week is still the rant I'm very much riding right now, which is the Eagles have done nothing to commit to Jalen Hurts. Long term. Did they commit to him for at least maybe this year? Yeah, sort of. But if they draft another quarterback, yeah, there's no commitment. And that could happen in this draft, as Jason La Canfora is saying. They can either move up and take a quarterback, or they can move up and take Kyle Pitts. That seems to be what's on the mind right now of Howie Roseman. What still is wild is, why has that changed? Since you had the 6th overall pick in your hand, why has that changed? Thought it would be a little bit easier to move a couple more spots. So we'll continue to try to figure that out. But I don't think we will, because it doesn't make any sense, bottom line. But seeing these reports over the weekend have definitely reignited some excitement for the NFL draft again. And then, of course, just happy accident, seeing that and listening to that report yesterday on SportsCenter with GM saying that Howie Roseman is always the guy they want to deal with because he's always willing to make a deal. The funny thing is Howie really doesn't get fleeced on trades. That's something that people don't knock him for, obviously. What they do knock him for is his draft capabilities. So I rather, again, go to my own little chart here and talk about those 1 through 5 picks, those 1 through 6 picks, which tend to be the most idiot-proof. All right? You shouldn't mess them up. And the further you get away from them, the less idiot-proof they become. So I'd rather Howie pick as top of the chart as possible. Right there. Idiot-proof. Right there. Kyle Pitts. That would be my preference. So we'll see how that shakes out. We'll continue to follow the other stories that are bound to come out over the next couple of days with the NFL draft getting started on Thursday. I know some people look at the idea of drafting a quarterback as if it would be the dumbest thing ever. I don't see it as that because put it this way. Jalen Hurts in the draft that he was in was a second-round pick. Jalen Hurts in this draft, with the guys that are supposed to be off the board, the first 3 picks, I don't even know if Jalen Hurts is, well, not that I don't. Jalen Hurts is not going to all of a sudden, if he was being drafted this year, he's not jumping into the first 3 pick category for the NFL draft. It's not happening. So I'd rather the Eagles get somebody that they would have more confidence in as their starting quarterback from Jump Street. That needs to happen. I know people, why'd you take Jalen Hurts? Yeah, it's dumb. Yeah, you might have crippled your franchise. Yeah, you might have finally just been the straw that broke the camel's back with Carson Wentz in terms of what's this team doing? Why didn't they help me out more? Whatever it might have been. But if they still feel like right now, look, Howie's not getting fired before Thursday. Like Howie's not getting fired within the next 6 months. Let's put it that way. So wouldn't you rather just know that you have the best possible team going forward? Because I don't know if I have that with Jalen Hurts. I would feel better if you did have guys like, I like Zach Wilson, obviously. We all know that Trevor Lawrence is going number 1. He's off the board of the Jags. That's obvious. You can talk about your Justin Fields. You can talk about your Mac Jones. Would you feel better if they were your starting quarterback going into next year as rookies, or would you feel better with Jalen Hurts? So when it comes to moving up to take a quarterback, it doesn't make me completely lose my mind. It makes me go, wow, this team. The hits just keep on coming, it feels like. But if they're able to move up and get a quarterback, I'm not necessarily against that. You go and you take Kyle Pitts, then you're helping out. Then you're showing a lot more investment, though, I think, in Jalen Hurts, because you're actually getting him somebody who will be a weapon and make him look pretty damn good as soon as the season starts. Starter from day one, as we know, offensive weapon from day one. And I know that's something that a lot of people will be excited to see. I'm not expecting the Eagles take a quarterback. I'm simply saying I know when that report came out, a lot of people jumped on it saying that it would make them lose their minds. It would not make me lose my mind. So you're looking at possibly getting a top 3, top 4, top 5 quarterback in this draft as opposed to a second-round guy last year. Yeah, okay. That doesn't make me go crazy, even a little bit. What else do we have here as far as the NFL draft goes? Oh, we'll debut for you later in the week. Guys outside of Alabama, that would make me happy if the Eagles got. And obviously, Jamar Chase is on that list and Kyle Pitts is on that list, but that would involve moving up in the NFL draft. So we'll continue to follow this as everything comes out. Morning Rush, in case you didn't know it, the Oscars were last night. It was a little weird. It was a lot smaller, scaled down version of the Oscars. But there was one moment of the Oscars that I had to show you. At one point, they were going around trying to liven things up at the Oscars. And they were basically saying you had to pick a song. Questlove, Philly's own Questlove from The Roots, would play a song. And the party goers would have to guess, the Oscar nominees would have to guess if the song was a nominated Oscar song, an Oscar winner, or no Oscar. Weird game they were playing, but they played it nonetheless. So sure enough, they start playing, I believe, The Butt. And Glenn Close knew everything about The Butt, including how to do the butt. So, ladies and gentlemen, get your started right with this. You're welcome. That happened last night. That, for me, personally, was the greatest Oscars moment possibly ever, but I think the greatest Oscars moment at least since Will Ferrell, Jack Black, John C. Reilly sang a comedian at the Oscars is the loneliest man in town. I think that was that was a pretty damn good song. They also did the fact that the Oscar music that plays when you're supposed to wrap up your speech has words, and the words were like "you're boring." That was fun too. But that was a fine Oscar moment from Glenn Close. Probably the best because it was so damn spontaneous. That was enjoyable. All right, let's get to our big bet segment. Big bet segment brought to you by the great people of DraftKings and DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and let the fun begin at DraftKings Sportsbook. Big bet segment today. I am not a fan of the 76ers until they get Ben Simmons back. I'll check out the line. I'll tweet it for you a little bit later tonight. But it's an interesting game they got coming up tonight, the Sixers. No Ben Simmons, obviously, expected tonight. We'll see what goes on with Joel Embiid after missing the game against the Bucks. They got the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight. I had the thing written down, as a matter of fact. Where the heck did it go? I don't have it on my notes anymore. Well, color me red. Me scusi. But I'm so hesitant to bet the Sixers right now. Even though I think they win this game, I would have expected it to be like a 9 to 10 point spread. But without Ben, they're back home. That's great. Couple of days off. Sixers might be able to roll tonight. That's going to be the game I'm going to be following and watching for the rest of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate Mike Golic joining the show on the Zatos Investments guest line. Hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. Make sure you check it out once again. BBQ Relief. I want to make sure I get this. Here it is. OBR.org. www.obr.org for more information for the charity that Mike Golic is helping out with the golf classics that's going to be going on in Kansas City. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe on our YouTube channel as well. Thanks for people watching on Twitch, on YouTube, Facebook Live, across all our social media platforms, on Twitter also. Jim Hyden produced the program, and this is a Buzz Sports and Entertainment production. I'm Marc Farzetta. We'll be back with you tomorrow on a very fine Tuesday with Hugh Douglas. Have a great day, everybody. Take it easy.